Yo, what is going on YouTube? This is your boy Dan, aka aDrive, bringing you guys our team builder here for week 13 of the UCL. The St. Louis Rampardos are taking on the Long Island Regirockies and Coach Nips, and this should be a pretty intense matchup, guys. I believe it's week 13. We've only got 3 weeks left this week and 2 more. We're facing Nexus and JYT Gamer. We're still fighting for a playoff spot here, guys. We're 1 game behind Jay, but Jay has some really tough matches coming up. I believe he plays me, Joey, and Miguel in his final 3 weeks. So we have a little bit of leeway here, but realistically, I need to win 2 out of my next 3 matches, I think, to make the playoffs, assuming Jay has a hard time against Miguel and Joey, which may not happen, I don't know, but they're tough. So I gotta win 2 out of my next 3, and one of those has to be against Jay, and I think at that point we'll probably make the playoffs, but I'm going for the win on all 3, and it starts here against Nips, and Nips has got a bit of a rough start to the season so far. I believe he's 3 wins and 9 losses. I think we're 8-4, so we've definitely had the upper hand there from a record perspective, but Nips is a really good battler. In fact, last season in the UCL, I went 14 wins and 1 loss, and the 1 loss was to Nips. He was able to stop my Mega Metagross with a Babiri Berry Mamoswine, and I will never forget that because it ruined my flawless season. Of course, we ended up losing to the championship anyway, but nevertheless, that was my 1 loss, and it was to Nips. So I have a little bit of vengeance here that I would like to address and hopefully pick up a W, but I'm not taking this match lightly. His record is not a representation of his battling skills or his team. He's actually really, really good, and he's got a great team, and he's got a lot of threats that are kind of tough for my team to address. So we're going to talk about his team. I'm going to try to go a little quicker. My last couple team builders have been really long, so I'll try to go a little bit quicker, but he's got a Weavile, 1,000,000% he's bringing it. Most likely Life Orb with knockoff, low kick, Ice Shard, Icicle Crash. This thing's a monster. Incredibly fast Revenge Killer, 125 base speed. He may even be able to run Adamant because of the speed tiers I have. I'm not quite sure what he's going to do there, but nevertheless, Weavile is just a huge, huge threat against my team. He's got Mega Alakazam or regular Alakazam, whichever he chooses. Obviously has the trace ability, which can trace my Sand Rush, making team building a little bit more challenging this week. It's also incredibly fast, 150 base speed, so you have to be careful of that. And aside from that stuff, it just hits really, really hard. It's a Mega Alakazam. He's got to hit Powdon, which is one of the biggest things that I'm having a hard time, or I had a hard time prepping for, because beating Hippowdon is really tough because it's so bulky, and it's got reliable recovery with Slack Off. He's probably not going to bring the Sand because it doesn't benefit him, and it really only helps me. So he's probably going to bring, I don't know what its other ability is, but it's not, I don't think it really does much. Maybe it's like Sand Force or something. He actually may bring that and try to take advantage of the sand rather than setting it himself. I'm not sure, but nevertheless, Hippowdon is very, very problematic. Typically going to run probably a Stealth Rock setter. He's probably going to have like Earthquake on it, maybe Slack Off, and then his 4th move is to be determined. It's either going to be Stone Edge, Whirlwind, or a utility move like Ice Fang. We'll likely see. Probably Stone Edge makes the most sense. He's got an Umbreon, incredibly bulky, has the ability to heal his team with Heal Bell, can be a Wish Pass or Baton Pass, but from an offensive perspective, Umbreon is pretty limited to just using Foul Play for the most part, so we might be able to take advantage of that in our team prep. Probably specially defensive Umbreon, physically defensive Hippowdon is what I'm expecting, and I expect the first 4 Pokemon 1,000,000,000% to come, because I think they just match up really well against my team, generally speaking. He's got a Chandelure, which is actually kind of tough. It hits really, really hard. He could go Scarf, he could go Specs, he could go some other variant. I don't think he's going to go like a substitute set, just because I've been bringing Roaron, Vaporeon, and stuff, and it really isn't going to be that advantageous for him, but he could very well bring a Scarf Chandelure. He could just bring like a Life Orb variant, maybe an E-Bell type of set, maybe even a Shuckleberry set could make some sense. So he's got a lot of options there for this Chandelure, so I gotta be very careful. Dragalge is one of the biggest threats that I have to deal with, and the reason why is Dragalge typically switches in against Venusaur really well because Sludge Bomb and Giga Drain are both resisted, making Dragalge very tough for me to beat, and a Choice Specs Dragalge actually pretty much destroys my entire team. I actually have 0 switch-ins to a Choice Specs Dragalge. Even like a Draco Play Dragalge is very, very scary. The adaptability just allows it to hit so incredibly hard, and it's very hard for my team to beat. He's got a Togetic, which is his only form of hazard removal, really. Togetic could be EVLA, just mostly bulky. I don't really expect much from this thing. He could bring it, though. I actually think he's going to bring his first 6, if I'm being honest, but there is some utility options here, too. So Togetic is one of those to keep hazards off the field if he's worried about me setting up like T-Spikes or whatever, but that's not really a good strategy with the Dragalge. He could run Dazzling Gleam and just defog, Roost, Heal Bell maybe himself. He's got the Magneton as well. Magneton could trap my Steel type, which is Excadrill, but typically isn't really that good in this match, I don't think, because his stab is resisted by a lot of my Pokemon. It's not very fast, and it is relatively frail unless you rock the Eviolite, and he's got a lot of ground weaknesses. If you can kind of see, the Chandelure, the Magneton, and the Dragalge all share that big ground weakness, so I'm going to try to take advantage of that in this match. He's got Sock, and he's brought Sock a few times this season, actually. Seems like he likes Sock quite a bit, so I wouldn't be surprised if he brought it this week. He could bring like a Mold Breaker variant with like max attack, like Ice Punch and stuff, to try to beat things like Venusaur, but generally speaking, my defensive core should be able to handle Sock without too much of a problem, and my offensive Pokemon should be able to beat it too, so I'll have to be very careful around the Sock, but nevertheless, it is a threat. He's got the Kingler, which I don't even think he's brought once this season, but Kingler's actually kind of cool. It's got a really good attack stat. It's got the move Agility, so it could set up on you, so I gotta be really careful about Kingler. It's not like an easy thing to deal with, really. Swellow, incredibly fast Pokemon again. I don't really anticipate Swellow coming because I'm pretty sure he's gonna bring Weavile and Zam, and Swellow can't really get through Excadrill T-Tar very well. It's got to carry Heat Wave or the special set, and I mean, the Brave Bird potential is nice and stuff, but Swellow is relatively weak unless you're running like the Gut set or a Specs version of it, and both of those are stopped by T-Tar, really, unless he runs like HP fighting or whatever, but I don't really anticipate that. And then last but not least is, of course, the Rampardos, which is our team mascot. He might bring it to be cheeky. I mean, he really, you know, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but, you know, he's at the very end of the season. There's no chance for playoffs at this point. So he may just bring the Rampardos and try to just destroy us with our own mascot. I wouldn't be surprised if he did that. I didn't prep a ton for Rampardos because there's not much you can prep for. He's either it's gonna come in, it's gonna click head smash, and it's gonna kill something. I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do there, and that goes for a lot of his wall breakers. Dragalge, Rampardos, Chandelure. I mean, some of these Pokemon, they just come in, click a move, and something gets decimated. But there wasn't really much I could do about that. So I did my best to prep for the Pokemon that I think he's gonna bring and his team in general, and hopefully it'll come out and work in our favor. So let's talk about our team here. We've got a very interesting build this week. So the first thing we're bringing is gonna be our Mega Venusaur, our Asparagus here. Rocking a Sassy Nature. You're gonna see a couple Sassy Nature Pokemon. Our team is sassy this week. We've got the Giga Drain Synthesis, Earthquake, Toxic. So I got the Earthquake on there again. It hits the Chandelure, it hits the Dragalge, it hits the Magneton. It's gonna hit a couple things super effective, obviously. Giga Drain is there to help against things like Hippowdon. I can heal up on it. It hits the Weavile relatively well. We're actually running a specially defensive variant. This is specifically designed to handle the Chandelure and the Dragalge relatively well. I can also take 2 Icicle Crushes from a Weavile if he's Life Orb, so I gotta be kind of careful about that. We can switch into knockoffs. I kind of debated between a physical defensive, specially offensive, a little bit of mix. This is a little bit mixed, but mostly on the special side. Again, kind of designed to take on the Dragalge and the Chandelure, because otherwise I have nothing to switch into Dragalge if he clicks Draco Meteor. At least with this, I could switch into it, take like 70-80% from a Specs variant, synthesis off the damage, and I can synthesis stall him, and I could also Earthquake him and 2-hit KO the Dragalge or the Chandelure with the Earthquake. So we've got a couple options there. Toxic is to beat Umbreon 1v1. Even if he has Heal Bell, we could stall him out of that. We could wear him down there. I could wear down things like Hippo. I could wear down things like Togetic if he's not carrying Heal Bell. So it's just nice on the team to have the Toxic. If he tries to make a cheeky switch into Weavile, we can get some damage off on that. So the Toxic is really nice, especially if he doesn't carry Heal Bell, which I figure he probably will, but like Umbreon will probably be Wish Protect, Foul Play, Heal Bell, or something like that. So either way, though, I think this is the right Venusaur set. I mean, the only thing I really feel like was kind of up in the air was whether I run physically defensive or specially defensive, but again, I think the Dragalge is just such a huge threat. The next Pokemon we're bringing to round out our defensive core, or at least start the core, is Vaporeon here, Oxygen, which has done a great job this season. I was gonna run Hydration, but I am running Water Absorb, and the reason for that, just to throw this out there, like, Hydration makes it so the Alakazam doesn't just get to trace our Water Absorb. This thing gets walled by Alakazam, but realistically, I wouldn't stay in it on anyway. So I figured the Water Absorb is fine because it helps me against Kingler, and Dragalge does get Scald. So while I did acknowledge the fact that the trace could hurt me here, I felt that having Water Absorb was better, strictly for, like I said, just giving me something to deal with Kingler or potentially Scald Dragalge, which otherwise would be annoying. We've got a lot of physical defense. This thing is designed to take on the Weavile incredibly well. I could take 2 knockoffs. I could take a knockoff. I mean, this is my response to Weavile, but unfortunately, obviously, if he knocks off our leftovers, that really stinks. But this thing also doubles as a response to Hippowdon relatively well. I want to keep my leftovers on there, though, so if I could figure out a way to do that and beat the Weavile, that's going to really, really help our team long term, because this Vaporeon puts in a lot of work against this squad, especially if I can keep it healthy and keep those leftovers rocking. The next Pokemon we're bringing is our 3rd defensive Pokemon this week, but it's kind of pseudo defensive offensive. It's our Godzilla here, Tyranitar, bringing the sand, but only 5 turns. We've got the Chople Berry, and this Tyranitar is designed to kill something on his team. It's got to get 1 kill. If this thing gets 1 kill, then that is going to be incredibly useful for us, right? So we've got a very interesting EV spread here. I basically have just a tiny bit of speed to make sure I don't get speed crept by things like Dragology. Even with the sassy nature, I could still speed creep. I've got max HP, a lot of special defense, which does get boosted by the Sandstream, of course. We've got a lot of defense, and then it's just a little bit of attack here with Ice Beam. Ice Beam does like 40% to hit Powdon, so we don't quite 2 KO, but it's enough to put the pressure on him. Pursuit is there, does Oko Alakazam if he switches out. Obviously does, you know, about 80% to him if he stays in. Same with the Chandelure. Chandelure really can't touch me unless he's got, you know, I mean, Energy Ball's not going to do a whole lot, so I'm not too concerned about that. I can switch into Dragology, go for a Stone Edge, do about 60%. I could take the Focus Blast with the Chople Berry, which is very nice. I could take the Low Kick from the Weavile, knock it out with Stone Edge. So you can see how this is designed to make sure I kill something. It's got to kill either the Alakazam, the Chandelure, the Weavile. Like, it's got to kill something, and that Chople Berry's got to help us get that kill. Like, that's the design of this Tyranitar. It's really meant for that, and getting those rocks up is going to be awesome because it'll help me whittle down the Weavile and the Chandelure. Most importantly, that Weavile, which is going to take 25% on entry. It's going to take Life Orb recoil, assuming it's Life Orb. So very, very important to get those rocks up, and very important for this thing to get a kill with that Chople Berry coming in clutch. Like, it has to in order for this strategy to work, in my opinion. The next Pokemon we're bringing is our Drill here, Excadrill. Bringing a very unique set this week. Kind of pseudo sand, pseudo not sand. Like, I really debated on the Sand Rush Drill because I know he has Trace on Alakazam when it Mega Evolves, but that Trace doesn't work until the 2nd turn. So, for example, if Excadrill comes in, I knock something out, Alakazam comes in and Mega Evolves in front of me, the Sand Rush doesn't activate on that turn. It'll activate the 2nd turn. So it only hurts me if he gets the sand, if he already Mega Evolved prior to me trying to do a sand type of sweep mid to late game. But it kind of, this Excadrill functions both in sand and out of sand, and that was kind of my plan here. Earthquake Iron Head destroys his entire team. I outspeed his entire team aside from Scarfers and potential Weavile and the Alakazam. We outspeed like everything, so that's really, really nice. We outspeed like his entire team. I Oko the majority of his team. Chandelure, Dragology goes down. Umbreon doesn't want to take this thing on. I mean, it can foul play me, but it still doesn't want to take this thing on. Obviously, I can Iron Head the Togekiss. Doesn't have a lot of switch-ins to Excadrill. And I've got the Magnet Rise on there. Nice little move to utility there. Like I said, that Hippowdon is going to run Earthquake. It's going to run Stealth Rocks most likely and Slack Off. Its 4th move is either Whirlwind or Stone Edge, most likely. If he's not carrying Whirlwind, I could set up Swords Dances all over that thing, use Magnet Rise, avoid his Earthquakes, and then we can pretty much put in some serious work. At +2, I do like 70% to Hippowdon, so we can definitely beat that thing. And I definitely want to use Excadrill to weaken that thing. And the Sand Rush could be very useful, even though it'll only be 5 turns. 4 turns after the T-Tar sets it. That could be enough for me to pick up a couple kills there and hopefully pick up a win with Excadrill. But I've got some other plans too up my sleeve. So the next Pokemon we're bringing is our primary wall breaker this week, Pink Nokia. Really, really tossed up on this set here. I was going to bring a Choice Scarf variant because Choice Scarf Heracross does outspeed the Alakazam. It outspeeds the Weavile. It outspeeds the Hippo. It outspeeds like everything on his team. So obviously it outspeeds Hippo. It outspeeds, you know, Chandelure and stuff like that. But the thing I didn't like about the Scarf variant is, one, it doesn't beat Hippo at all. Like, it can't beat Hippo if it's Scarf. And 2, I have to play a little bit too much of mind games in terms of the move I pick, strictly because of the Ghost Chandelure. Doesn't allow me to click Mega Horn as easily as I would like to. But we've got this thing here. It destroys his team. The Toxic Orb Guts activates. I can 2-hit KO the Hippowdon after just a tiny bit of chip damage. I destroy the Vaporeon. I destroy the Chandelure. I destroy the Dragology. I destroy like his entire team with this thing. And he doesn't have any switch-ins. And that's why I'm running the Guts variant with the Jolly, or the Toxic Orb Jolly. So that way I can switch up my moves. So if I make a misprediction, or like, you know what I mean, I go for a close combat, knock something out, in comes a Chandelure. Assuming he's not Scarfed, I will outspeed that thing. I can go for an Earthquake or a knockoff and finish that thing off. So it just makes it so I don't have to predict as much with the Heracross, and I can use this thing to break through those walls and hopefully give my other Pokemon a chance to sweep, whether it be Excadrill or this last Pokemon here. And again, I debated a lot on this last slot. It was very tough for me to decide. Salamence seems like the easy choice, but that Ice Shard from Weavile is very daunting because it does knock me out. But I'm going to bring the Adamant Choice Scarf Moxie Salamence here with enough speed to outspeed the Sawk no matter what. I actually outspeed his entire team unless he brings Scarf Weavile Weavile. That would be the only thing that would outspeed me is Scarf Weavile or Scarf Alakazam instead of Mega. So we outspeed his entire team. I've got Outrage, Stone Edge, Earthquake, Tailwind here. I really like the utility with Tailwind. I brought Scarf Salamence with Tailwind a bunch of times. Never used it, but I think it could actually come to work this match here. Except the Tailwind Heracross comes in, it can sweep. It can handle the Weavile a little bit better than something else. Maybe the same with Excadrill. If the sand fails me here, I still have a backup option to get the Tailwind up and give myself a few turns to clean up his team. Otherwise, Outrage puts holes through his team. Everything aside from Hippo is absolutely decimated by this Salamence, and even Hippo is going to take 35-ish% from the first Outrage. I could hit him twice and potentially knock him out if I weaken the Hippo a little bit there. So we've got some options there. It's not really the best switching if I weaken it. But again, the problem with this Salamence and the problem with this build here that scares me a little bit going into the match is the fact that Weavile is very, very scary, guys. Every time Salamence comes in, Weavile gets to come in basically after I kill something, and it gets to just revenge me with Ice Shard. So I have to make the plays and either choose to stay in and take the Ice Shard or predict him to go for the knockoff. I go into Vaporeon or something like that. So it's going to be a little bit of mind games there, but I really like the Salamence set, and I think Salamence could put in some work. I had debated again with the Scarf Heracross and then bringing like a Life Orb, especially offensive Salamence like Draco, Hydro Pump, things like that, but I felt that the Scarf Mence was better because I really wanted to open up the options for Heracross to attack, because Heracross basically gets a free switch in on Umbreon every time if he brings it, so that'll be really nice. And when it comes in on something for free, like if I get a Baton Pass off of Vaporeon, I can go right into Heracross, activate that Toxic Orb, and something dies, which is very nice. So we've got some options there. So that's our team build, guys. Like I said, it's a tough matchup for me. I know he hasn't done that well this season, but things like Weavile and Dragalge they just destroy my team. I don't really have the best answers for them, so I kind of had to get a little bit creative this week with some of the sets, and the Magnet Rise Excadrill and the Orb Heracross and Scarf Mence, you know, got the Chople, T-Tar, and then just bulky Venusaur and Vaporeon. So we'll see if it works out, but that's gonna be it for me, guys. My name is Dan, also by aDrive. Hope we can head smash our opponents to victory here. I will catch you guys later. Peace.